welcome to another edition of Bigfoots Pad Live. On today's show, we have the Phantom Cats and Alien Felines episode. I'll say this is a show that we're supposed to do on Sunday, but I got sicker than a dog on Sunday. I don't know how. We're also going to have a show on Sunday night. We're going to be talking to Floyd Wills, and he's going to be talking about the Lovelock, Nevada Giants in Lovelock Cave.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Oh, that should be a good one. What do you think of that one, Nick? I know that you were saying that you think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a true story, and I've brushed up on it a little bit, but it's been a long time since I really delved into the matter.
Yeah, so I do have some news that we're going to share. I'm just trying to get something going on our Facebook really quick. StreamYard's giving me problems. So basically, on, I believe it is September 23rd, we are going to be doing a ghost hunt over at it's like a 1938 community center over in a place called Overton, Nevada. So that should be interesting. We're trying to figure out a way to do it live, but we'll see.
Either way, there will be videos of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're going to definitely take video, pictures, do our thing.
And we're finally looking at the end of the tunnel. We're going to have our Sand Yeti documentary finally done. It looks like we should have it done in roughly about 2 to 3 weeks. We'll have it done, ready to go. So,
oh, you what?
Oh yeah. So I shaved. I feel like I look like Hank Hill. Yeah. So I'm trying to find a way. It looks like for some reason they're not allowing me to post our link to StreamYard for some reason. I don't get why.
Sorry, I posted a thing on Twitter. I wrote, it's not paranormal, but it is. It's do you remember I sent you guys that canned chicken thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
I put it on the Twitter, and it has like a ton of people writing it. I'm sorry, I'm laughing my ass off right now.
Oh, wow.
Some guy wrote, it is fucking paranormal with exclamation mark. Sorry. I was just posting something about the show, and I saw that.
Oh, it's all right. So while I'm trying to get this to go, guess I'm just gonna have to mess with it later. Yeah. So, anyways, we are going to get started with some news stories as soon as I can get it open. Yeah. So the first article I found, it says scientists have discovered an anomalous blob of heat on the far side of the moon. The mysterious hotspot has a strange origin. It's likely caused by the natural radiation emanating from a huge buried mass of granite, which is rarely found in large quantities outside of Earth. According to research, on the moon, a dead volcano that hasn't erupted for 3.5 billion years is likely the source of the unusual hunk of granite. And it says the area in question is 31 miles across, where the temperature is about 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Researchers reported their initial findings in the journal called Nature on July 5th, since it's been a little while, I guess, when they first found it. And it says they talked about it in Lyon, France, at a geochemistry conference. So, have you guys heard about that at all?
No.
I haven't heard of it, no.
So this next one, I got to share my screen for this one. Let me share my screen. Okay, so here we go. So the alleged 1883 Bigfoot photograph has been exposed as a hoax. This was posted at the beginning of July. This impressive-looking photograph of a large hominid creature next to a human has been produced using an AI image tool. So I don't need to really get into this. The original poster says the photograph was taken in 1883 in Alabama, and it's found it buried in a glass jar on a family estate, which of course is bullshit from what I just said.
I've seen that online before. I actually seen that one.
It's too pretty looking, you know?
It is pretty cool looking.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm saying it's too crisp for an old picture. You can tell that it's generated CGI or somewhat to that
Why has
effect.
Twitter been showing up just as an X lately? Have you noticed that?
Oh, they changed their logo. Elon changed
yeah.
the logo.
Oh, I say it just shows up as that on my phone and on here.
Yeah,
So there's that.
I see Richard.
What?
Oh, I saw Nick's dad walking the back. There he is. Hey,
Oh,
Rick.
Yeah, so the other thing I was going to say, so continuing on, we have, if I could get it to the next one, I wrote, astronomers believe that there is a small chance that a rogue planet could have been captured by the sun's gravity. A few years ago, the possibility that there was an undiscovered planet in our solar system, the so-called Planet X or Planet 9, prompted a great deal of intrigue, debate, and speculation. Some astronomers spent years attempting to find direct evidence of the mysterious world. But to date, nothing conclusive has ever been found, and the idea is now considered to be mostly discredited. But that doesn't mean that there's no undiscovered planet out there, however. Researchers now believe that there's about a 7% chance that a rogue planet from a distant part of the galaxy could have been captured by the sun's galaxy and is now situated somewhere in the Oort cloud. And if you don't know what that is, it's a huge array of icy objects situated hundreds of billions of miles away from Earth. I think the Voyager spacecraft's in that right now.
It is. It's on the super far away from where we're at.
If this is true, then it would be very difficult for us to actually know about it, considering the immense size of this region of space and the lack of any obvious gravitational effects on other planets. Given how far away this region of space actually is, however, it's going to take some radical new technology for us to even get the opportunity to experience this so-called Planet 9. So what do you think of that, Nick? I know you were looking into rogue planets a while back.
I mean, the universe is so large and beyond our comprehension that if there are other planets out there in the solar system, I wouldn't doubt it.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or it could just be a big moon, like Pluto was a planet forever, and then they demoted that to being just an asteroid or a comet or something.
Subplanet.
A subplanet, yeah. So
Some nonsense. It's still a planet in my eyes.
Oh, yeah, me too. But yeah, if there's another planet out there on the edge of the solar system.
We were all the way in 12th grade, then all of a sudden oh wait, never mind, not a planet anymore.
Yeah.
Well, they did have the David Grush went to Congress and they had hearings over the week during the week.
Did.
Yeah,
I figured we can talk about those. I was thinking we could save it for a save it for a future show is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Nick?
Yeah, I think it would be a good show that we could do. I mean, just to kind of summarize it real quick, basically everything he has said to the media, he repeated under oath in Congress. So there's definitely some kind of truth to his claims.
Yeah, I heard that too. And then I heard basically he said he only wants to discuss it with people that have the clearance and things, or once it's okay to talk about it, get the proper clearances and whatnot.
So yeah, he definitely was crossing his T's and dotting his I's and making sure that he was saying and doing the right things.
I thought it was interesting. The Nimitz, they had the guys who were part of the Nimitz footage were on there. I thought that was pretty interesting. The Tic Tac video.
Yeah, I read about that. Yeah,
we heard a little bit more about that. Grush, I was getting kind of disappointed. All the good stuff he said he had to talk about in a closed meeting, but that's understandable, I suppose.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get zip tied or get visited by guys in white vans and military.
Get zip tied, zip tied, thrown in a van and end up in a brig for espionage. I don't blame him.
Yeah, so we have someone in the chat right now. Go Chavez 86. He says that's how we grew up. Pluto was a planet, is what he's saying.
He's right.
That's what he or she was saying. Yeah, for some reason it's saying they can't broadcast to Facebook right now. For some reason,
that's weird. But yeah, literally, we were in 12th grade, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, and everything you've ever been told is a lie." I'm like, no, not true.
So we are going to get started with tonight's topic. This is going to take a while, I suppose, because I have tons and tons of material on this. So,
that's all right. I have some material. Yeah,
I'm going to give a definition, and then we're going to have Nick tell a personal experience. I figured that would be the best way to start this out. So phantom cats are also known as alien big cats, are large felids which allegedly appear in regions outside of their indigenous ranges. Sightings, tracks, and predation have been reported in multiple countries around the world. When confirmed, they are typically explained as exotic pets or escapees from private zoos. Some of them remain unexplained or ghostly in nature. So basically what we're talking about here is we're talking about mysterious, gigantic, well, sometimes gigantic cats of various types seen around the world that are outside their indigenous ranges. But a lot of them, for some reason, are reported as black cats or almost like mountain lions in nature. Oh, it's David. Sorry, I got sidetracked. It's David.
It's me, David.
And Vader or Viator, I always butcher her name. I don't know if it's Vader or Viator. She's on here. She's saying basically yes because his answer was no. He said so. Because when his answer was no, he said so. Going back to the Grush thing. So thanks guys for tuning in. Nick, so while we're talking about these phantom cats, I kind of butchered the definition there. You want to give a quick definition from your point of view, and then we'll introduce your sighting from when you were a kid.
Well, basically, phantom cats are felines or feline, felinoids, like we call Sasquatch hominids, or maybe that appear outside of their environments that you would think that they'd be in. Like lions, you think they're in Africa. Tigers, you find in India and Russia. So these cat sightings appear in places that you would least expect it. They are often described as large and black, and they're usually attributed to escaped or abandoned animals. But there are some theories that at least some of them may be ghosts or some kind of interdimensional being. There's Native American legends about that kind of thing, and I had an experience as a kid that drew my interest in the subject back in the 90s.
So talk a little bit about your sighting. Well, not a little bit, but tell us your sighting, Nick.
Just a little bit.
Well, back when I was a kid, about 8 or 9 years old, back in Rhode Island, which if anybody out there's watching and doesn't know, is the smallest state. It's over in New England on the East Coast on the Atlantic Ocean. So this is not a place you'd expect to find any really large animal. Like we didn't even really have black bear sightings in the area I grew up in. So I was about 8 or 9, and I often played outside because back then, like Pluto was a planet when we were kids. Kids used to play outside too, believe it or not. But I was going outside, and I walked out of my house, and I went to the edge of my driveway, and I lived on a large hill on a downward incline. I was towards the top, and I would often get on a skateboard or a bike, and I just race down the hill, come up, and race back down. So I was bringing my bike out that day, and I went to the edge of the driveway and looked down the hill because I was going to, get on my bike and go down the hill. But when I looked down the hill, I noticed something that was it was kind of doing a jog down the hill. This large 4-legged animal that was close to the ground was moving at a deep pace down the hill, and it was large and it was black. I didn't get to see any facial features or anything in high detail. I just saw black, 4 feet, and a tail very quickly, and I saw it go down the hill real quick, and then it made a quick right into the woods because the woods that it went into were across the street from my house. So it went down the hill like this, and it made a right into the woods. And I stood in shock and awe for a second because, again, I had never seen any animal like that growing up as a kid. Hiking through the woods and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
The biggest thing I think I ever saw. I mean, we had like squirrels. There were no large predators or I might have seen a deer once. So we didn't have any large wildlife in the area. So it caught my attention after I was standing there in shock, and I decided to follow it. And I went down the hill, not maybe 50. No, I don't even think it was 50 yards. It wasn't even half a football field. We'll say 20, 25 yards down the hill. And then I went to the edge of the woods and I looked in, and there was nothing. It was gone. And I mean, when I'm saying woods, I'm not talking about like redwood forest, Northern California gets dark at 2 o'clock woods. I'm talking about, some pine trees and like ferns, no large overgrown vegetation. So if an animal that size had gone into the woods, I would have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing.
Exactly.
There was no trace of what I had seen at all. And I do remember it was kind of silent and eerie. There were no birds chirping or anything like that.
How big would you say it was? Like a mountain lion size, or?
Yeah, judging by the mountain lions I've seen here, I would say it was probably a small to middle-sized mountain lion size.
So here's my other thing. So if it was, well, I'm not saying if it was, you saw it, but if it were some kind of like a panther or even like a mountain lion, do you think that there's anything it could eat to survive out there? Or?
No, like I said, there were no large animals. We had like wild rabbits. Even those were sparse. The most common prey animal for any predator would have been squirrels and raccoons. Like there really wasn't a lot of game in the area.
I'm actually reading a thing right now, Nick. It says they're extremely rare to find there, but they said in the whole state of Rhode Island there may be a handful of cougars and pumas there, and a handful of bobcats. But other than that, there's nothing. There's nothing else in the state. Yeah, like you said, no predators or anything.
Yeah, I never saw a lot. I mean, could it have been a bobcat or a puma and had snuck into the woods? It is totally possible. I can't discount it, but the fact that this thing just disappeared into the woods, into the brush, without a trace.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And it was black.
Yeah, big black animal just disappeared in the thin air. It still shocks me to this day. And this happened. Let's see, I'm going to be 34. I was like, 20, 24, 25 years ago, this happened. So I remember it vividly, even so many years later.
So
exactly.
As far as your account goes, you said were you by yourself, or was your sister with you?
I was by myself. No one else had seen it. I think I might have run into the house and said something to my sister or my parents. I don't remember, but I just remember very vividly going out to the edge of that driveway, seeing this large black animal go down the street and dart into the woods. And it was low to the ground. And like I said, at first it was moving kind of like at a jogging pace, like it wasn't trying to go too fast. But then when I went to the edge of the driveway, it took off. Like it didn't want to be seen. So like I said, I didn't see any ears or a face or anything. I saw it from the back. It says I saw black fur, 4 legs, low to the ground, and long.
That's still a cool story, though. I mean, that's
like I said,
the fact you've seen it.
So you live close to the mountains, Nick?
No, and that's another reason why I'm even more bedazzled by the experiences. My area was like a half residential, half woodsy area. There were a number of farms close by.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, maybe, if it would have been a predatory cat, it could have been preying on some chickens. There was a person that kept some chickens like a few blocks over, and they had a nice little plot of land, and you could hear the roosters every morning. But as far as, like I said, large animals, no. And we didn't live near the mountains. So whatever this was, if it was an animal, a flesh and blood black cat, then it must have migrated very far and got lost and was just trying to find its way out of my town.
That's what it sounds like.
So without further ado, we're going to get back to Nick's story in just a minute, but I have a couple things to share first. So the first part of I guess I have these organized kind of by region of the world or region. A lot of them are in the United States. I figured we're going to have to do a part 2 of this because there's literally hundreds of websites on this stuff. So we're going to talk about New England first, and we're going to get to Rhode Island here. So scientists say that pumas, because we're talking, I guess, we're talking about like bobcats, mountain lion type animals. They need 2 things to survive: deer and large tracts of contiguous forest. By one estimation, a population of about 15 or 20 pumas would need approximately 400 or 800 miles of forest with a moderate deer population in order to exist. Adult pumas eat about a deer a week. Females could eat a little bit more, it says. It's difficult to ascertain how large the population of mountain lions is or used to be in Rhode Island. The elusive cat typically shies away from populated areas, and like Nick said, that's what makes the sighting weird, just as it does today. So there were few sightings of the predators in Rhode Island historically. Some naturalists in the early to mid 1700s believed that the animal was already extinct at that point. However, that was most definitely not the case. The last known Rhode Island mountain lion was killed in 1848, but the exact timeline is unclear. This particular interaction is still the stuff of lore. So like Nick was saying, historically, Rhode Island doesn't have a whole lot of mountain lions. I saw what Tim was saying. Tim's on mute saying something.
All right, I was pulling up. I pulled up a Google Earth image of the house that I grew up in, so I could share my screen possibly later on and show you exactly the area that I saw this animal, so people can get an idea.
Oh, that's fine. So I'm going to talk about a Rhode Island sighting, and then we can show your map, Nick. How's that?
Okay.
So this is unrelated to Nick's sighting. Well, it's mostly. In 2011, multiple witnesses reported seeing a mountain lion in Rhode Island. When officials traveled to investigate, they found large tracks too big to belong to any local bobcats, and they found a deer carcass that had been dragged and partially buried under some leaves. This kill site is a telltale indication of a mountain lion's presence. However, the verdict was that residents possibly saw a mountain lion, but they stopped short of confirming the sighting in fear of inciting violence or hunters wanting to go hunt the creatures or people getting scared.
Yeah.
So people are very skittish in Rhode Island. I mean, when my sister and I had returned a few years ago and we went to our childhood home, we drove the rental car down the very hill that I'm talking about, and we stopped in front of the house just to look at it and see what it had become. And we got the Ruth, Nevada treatment from the people that lived in the house. They like peeked out their blinds and were like staring at us like, you don't belong here. So people are very skittish. So I think a mountain lion would send the public into a frenzy. Yeah, it's spooky.
Yeah. So Nick, you said you wanted to share your screen real quick before we go on to like other parts of the country?
Yeah, let's see here.
Okay, here we go.
So right here I have Google Earth pulled up, and the red dot over here is my house. And let me see if I can rotate this to make it more visible.
Yeah, see, it does look a little woodsy for sure.
So the woods right here where I'm, circling with the cursor, those are the woods that the cat had disappeared to. The driveway's right here. It's pretty faint on this Google Earth image, but the mouth of the driveway was right here, and the cat was going down the street somewhat in this area. And
I mean, because I've seen cougars before. Like we seen that one at night by our Bigfoot place. Those things are pretty big.
Yeah, it's Won't let me get a better image because I'm running an experimental version. Oh, here we go.
Why does it
Okay,
look
so
like
this is a
blocky,
back
like
view.
RuneScape?
This is a back view.
It looks like RuneScape.
It does. It looks like RuneScape for some
So this
reason.
is a back view from the house, and the driveway is right here where my cursor is. So I had come out over here, and I looked down the street going this way, and you could see as I zoom out over here, there we go. Here's a 2D rendering of it, so it doesn't look as RuneScape-ish. But as you see, there's a residential house here, and there's my house that I grew up in with the red dot on it. So I was at the mouth over here, the driveway. I looked down, and this animal was going down the street in this direction. And when I looked, it darted off into these woods here.
Mm-hmm.
And on the map, they do look a little thicker than they are in real life. I mean, right here is a residential house right on the next side of the woods. So you're probably talking about not even a quarter mile of trees, but I just wanted to give you a visual example of what I had seen in the environment that I had seen it in. So a large, mountain lion is something I would have seen in that thin amount of foliage. Like I said,
Yeah.
the tree lines not super high, like so it's not redwood forest, and the bushes are like ferns, like red ferns. The bushes aren't very large, so a large animal wouldn't be able to conceal itself easily in that brush. So
what time did you say it was? I was busy fighting Facebook. What time of
You
day
should
or
have
night?
went. You should have went and hunted it, Nick.
well, I chased after it to see, get a better look at it to see what it was, but it was probably about noon to 2:00. It was like right after lunch, and I had gone out to ride my bike down that hill. So it was, middle of the day that I had seen this thing.
Yeah. Let me look. So while we're on the topic of New England, I figured I will share some other sightings from that general part of the country. This is from Connecticut. At about 1 a.m. on a Sunday in June 2011, a white Hyundai Tucson was speeding along Route 15 in Milford, Connecticut. I can't say that.
Okay,
Suddenly, something big crossed the road. The SUV was moving too fast to stop in time, and the figure was struck and killed. Police were called in. The driver wasn't injured, and the animal victim was a full-grown 140-pound mountain lion. For a time, this caused quite a stir. Claims of big cat sightings had been reported throughout New England for about half a century, but rarely, if ever, was there conclusive evidence. Now, here was one in the flesh. Initial observations showed no signs of the animal ever having been captured, no microchips, no tags, no declawed, no neutered, all common occurrences in captive cats. Could this be concrete proof of a native mountain lion population in Connecticut? It wasn't long before the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection announced the result of its DNA testing, which concluded that the mountain lion had wandered 1,500 miles from the Black Hills of South Dakota to Connecticut. And they said that's a record. For how far the animal traveled.
Now, I can speak about Connecticut because my family had a cleaning business out there, and they made some close friends that I would spend weekends out there with the family, and they lived in a pretty rural area. And I could say outside of the major cities like Bridgeport or New London, Connecticut's pretty rural. If you think of the East Coast, you think of like New York and Boston and stuff, but Connecticut and Western Massachusetts are pretty rural. So they could support large cat populations there because they have larger game like deer and whatnot in those in that part of New England. So the forests of Connecticut are definitely capable of sustaining a large predator like a mountain lion.
Well, I know they have the forests of Jersey. I know they said they have some mountain lions there. I was reading.
Outside, again, outside of the major urban areas in New Jersey, yeah, there are some rural areas as well. So, I mean, I never spent a lot of time in New Jersey as a kid. I think we drove through it a few times, but I don't think
What? You never lived in
No,
Jersey?
oh
Jersey?
yeah, the beautiful.
In
Vader
Hoboken?
says she was born in Connecticut.
Oh wow, it's a beautiful state. I love it. I haven't been there in well over a decade, but I'd love to go back and
Mm-hmm. Oh, it looks pretty cool.
go experience it. I mean, the family friends that my family had lived on the edge of a state forest. You know,
Mhm.
right on the. So we would go out and do Huckleberry Finn type stuff all the time in the state forest, and we came
Nick
across.
tipped over a table and used it as a raft and just
Yeah,
traveled down the river like in Huck Finn.
But yeah, we could probably do a show on just some of the stuff.
And is wearing nothing but overalls.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
overalls
that's
with no
me.
shoes and no shirt.
You
With
gotta go
a piece of wheat in his mouth or a corncob pipe.
No, but seriously, it looks very beautiful.
It does.
Connecticut.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful state. I got to give it that.
So the next part we're going to talk about, we're going to bring up Kentucky. Kentucky and Texas, for some reason, seem like they have the most sightings of these black cats. Something I do want to warn before I play this video. We played some clips of David Grush, 2 weeks ago, and we got copyright struck. And YouTube took our video down, so I had to cut those clips out of our video for YouTube to not take our video down forever. So I'm going to play a clip from a news station in Kentucky of a black cat sighting. But if for some reason you watch this video later and the video isn't there, that's because they decided to copyright strike us on this. So let me share my screen. Turn up my volume here. All right, here we go. If I could unmute it.
When it's time to celebrate and remember, to honor in loving memory, the Robertson County Funeral Home.
You'll see a tiny black dot. I will zoom in for you here. Megan Smith of Bowling Green, Kentucky, sent Smoky Barn News this footage. She took it yesterday in a field off of Russellville Road near Memphis Junction Road. Megan was convinced, seeing the cat in real life, that it was not an ordinary house cat. This was something similar in size, she thought, to a black panther or even a cougar.
It looks big.
I'm tired of squinting at this video, so we thought we would share it with you. What we did notice was that the cat did have a rather oddly long tail. We've done our best to stabilize the video and zoom in as tight as we can without getting too much pixelation, but we're going to have to leave it up to you to decide exactly what kind of cat this is. Here's a freeze frame.
It has an odd tail. It looks weird. It's 8 times the size of a house cat.
It'll be up to you. Megan said she was about 100 yards from the cat when she took the video, and in her mind, a good comparison to gauge the size of the cat was the hay bale off to the right. Well, there it is, Robertson County. Was this a regular-sized house cat, or was this something bigger? Tell us in comments below. This has been Jim Ball reporting for Smoky Barn News.
Definitely.
How important is your health?
A big
Yeah,
cat.
so what do you think of that?
It definitely looks larger than a house cat. That tail is pretty long, like the guy said. So,
and you can tell by its features, it's like crouching as it's going. Like it's.
I mean, we've up when we were going to Mount Charleston to film our documentary, we saw mountain lions up there, and that thing moved just like a mountain lion.
And in Northern California, we've seen it.
Oh yeah, our furry friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I was watching that. I was like, it seemed like it was almost like it was watching something, or kind of, I wouldn't know if you want to call it hunting, but it was like cautious of something moving around.
Oh yeah,
At first,
definitely.
I just like the guy. What can this be? Is this a house cat? And it's like 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, that's a house. And by the way, I love the funeral home preview. That was pretty good too.
Oh yeah, the funeral home. Watch the funeral home be the one to copyright strike us. So, yeah. So continuing on, I have a couple more Kentucky stories. This one I thought was interesting. There's a number of sightings that take place around this school right here. I think that's Texas. We'll get to that in a minute. This guy wrote, one sighting I had was at my mother-in-law's. It was between midnight to about 1 in the morning. I stepped out onto the front porch to smoke, and I noticed two large yellow eyes at the approach of the driveway, and noticed it was another big cougar-sized cat. This was in Elliott County, Kentucky, up a holler called Rocky Branch Road or Rocky Brack Road. All of the other big cats I've seen so far along the road are on the sides late at night while moving on dark rural area roads. The Kentucky Wildlife and Game officials say there are now big cats. I know that there's no big cats. Sorry, I typo. So Kentucky Wildlife says that there's no big cats. The eyewitness says that they know better, that there are wild big cats in Kentucky because them and their family members have seen them. It says these are comments posted on the video that we just saw of that cat in Kentucky. I forgot to mention. So these are all in that same general area. Another person says, I worked for the Louisville Metro Animal Services in 2012, and we had several reported sightings of a black panther in both Jefferson County and Bullitt County. Large cat tracks were found in Bullitt County, and several locals claimed they had livestock attacked, and dogs came up missing in that area at the time, says an individual named Sean M. Another one, it says, about a year ago, I lived on an 80-acre property. One morning, I was sitting outside on my porch, and I looked towards the barn, and there was a black panther standing there staring at me. I told my husband, and he confirmed it was definitely a black panther. It turned around and left. Our neighbors said he saw it a few days before on his property. I lived in Crittenden County at the time, says a lady named Crystal. Sounds like whatever that creature is all over the place.
Yeah, it sounds like.
Now,
probably multiple.
I'd like to insert a footnote here. So the fact that most of these cats have black fur makes it even a more rare sighting, because I believe I was reading most of the wild cats in North America are dark brown to tan.
Yeah.
They call them like the melanated mountain lions, or I think jaguars can also be melanated, which are rare. It's like in those cat families, the black fur is almost like a reverse albinism. It's a very rare mutation.
Yeah, unless you're in like South America.
Yeah, it's a really rare mutation that shows up in these cat populations. So the fact that people are seeing a predominantly black cat is an even more rare occurrence than you think of just right off the bat.
Yeah. What do you think of that, Tim?
Like I said, I agree. It's just weird, and the fact that everything's black. Like I said, I know there's what's the word, like anomaly. It's an anomaly. I know there's some cats in South of.
It's an anomaly in an anomaly.
Yeah, exactly.
A large cat by itself. If it was just a regular brown mountain lion, it would be really rare. But the fact that it's a black mountain lion or jaguar, which would be even a rarer circumstance, because those are only known to go up to like Texas and Arizona. So if they're going into the southern United States, that's amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Randomly, Tim posted a link. It says that your old house is for sale in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I'll have to save up and try to put a down payment.
Didn't you say that house was haunted too, though?
Yeah. Oh, that area was so rich with paranormal activity. I mean, between the black cat sighting, I saw the shadow man with the hat man that's become famous all of a sudden now. I saw that as a kid. I saw a full-blown apparition of an old man. There were Indian burial mounds in my backyard. I mean, that whole area is saturated with weird and paranormal activity. And that's the biggest reason why I have a passion for it today, just because of the experiences I had as a kid growing up in that particular area.
Yeah, absolutely. Tons of history and tons of people living on the land before you too.
Yeah.
And now evidently big cats too.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a trippy area.
I have two more sightings in Kentucky we could talk about. The Hancock Clarion interviewed Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife's John Hast. He's the department's bear and fur bearer program coordinator. John had this to say. This is a quote from John. He says, "We do not have any black feline species in Kentucky. A black panther is a South American Amazonian jungle kind of deal. In addition, the climate of Kentucky, specifically the winters, does not allow black panthers to easily survive here. As a breeding population, cougars are considered extinct in the state." So that guy's claiming that he doesn't think they could exist there. But I don't know if you guys remember, we had Philip Spencer on the show, on the old show. Do you remember, Nick?
Yep.
He was talking about the wild man of Kentucky. And he was saying that there's a place called Panther Rock, which has Bigfoot and Black Panther sightings all the time there. And he was saying that's where they filmed their documentary, was because there was so many Black Panther sightings there. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
We had him on the show twice, actually, on our old blog.
Yeah, I remember that.
So what do you think of that, Nick? Do you think that maybe there might be there, he's just not saying, or you think maybe he's just a skeptic because he hasn't seen it himself? Or
yeah, I think he's probably skeptical a little bit, because you do have to have a healthy amount of skepticism. Plus, I do believe that there are black or even just wildcats in Kentucky in general. That's far enough, in the South, especially Southern Kentucky. Going there down in the deep South, there's plenty of an environment to support, a population of large cats. And also, another footnote, a lot of these sightings can be attributed to people abandoning exotic pets that they get off the black market, and then they just throw them out in the woods and hope that they can fend for themselves. So that's another thing people should take into consideration. So something might not be native to the area, but someone could have bought a panther, a jaguar, a mountain lion, and they might not have been able to take care of it. Then they just throw it out into the woods, hoping that it will survive. And then later on, people end up seeing it.
Yep. That's one theory.
all right, Nick. So we're gonna have you talk about this. We have someone in the chat that's posting something. There's two parts to it. James Quayle, he says, 2 years ago, I had a huge black mountain lion killed two of my goats. I think you mean goats instead of ghosts. And one was pregnant, and my neighbor saw it in the middle of the night, 18 miles outside of Willow Creek on Highway 299.
Wow.
Posted it about 3 times in the last year, and over 100 people jump on the Willow Creek bulletin board on Facebook, and they said that they've seen numbers of these very large mountain lions that are black. What do you think of that, Nick? Well, that's pretty cool.
I think it's definitely possible. I would need to know what Willow Creek you might be speaking about, because I think there's probably a few of them in the United States. So depending on how rural the area is, I would say it's possible, but I would just believe him off the cut, because he said the mountain lions or panthers attacked his goats. And that's a perfect animal. That's a prey animal for a predator like that. I mean, in England, where they had physical evidence showing large cats were attacking stock, it just demonstrates.
Oh, it's Willow Creek, California, I think. The owner of Bigfoot Books in Willow Creek, Stephen Strufert, a black mountain lion with his girlfriend during the daytime a few years ago, and posted about it. Yes, Northern California could definitely have something.
Oh yeah,
like
for
that.
sure. We ran into those. We
ran into. We were just cruising down the road. We were actually on a Bigfoot. We were spending a week in Northern California, and we were down by Placerville, and we saw a family of cougars. I think it was a mom and 2 cubs or 3 cubs.
Yeah,
walking on the side of the road.
Yeah, we were driving down the street. I mean, we weren't going too fast.
In the middle of the night.
They had no fear at all of us, though.
They were running along the side of the Jeep we were in. And I remember just looking out, and I'm like, look, it's Simba. And
I remember they had zero fear of the car, like none.
Oh, yeah, none.
Willow Creek, California. Oh, yes. There were posts just a few days ago in response to my post about the black mountain lion that killed my goats. And many people Seen them for a long time around. Oh, I believe it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And in California, the forests can and do support mountain lion populations.
So we
I'm
talked a
sorry to
little.
hear
Oh yeah.
killed his goat, you know.
It sounds like this is more common than you think. The black mountain lions. So here's another one. This one's a weird one. I thought this comes from Hawaii. In December of 2002, sightings of a big cat increased in numbers in the Kula area. I think it's Kula, and the Division of Forestry and Wildlife requested the help of big cat wildlife biologist William Van Pelt and Stan Cunningham of the Arizona Fish and Wildlife. Van Pelt and Cunningham believed that the cat was probably a large feline, such as a leopard, a jaguar, or a cougar. It may have been illegally brought to Hawaii as a pet and released or allowed to wander into the wild. No big cat was detected by traps, cameras, or professional trackers. A fur sample was obtained in 2003, this a year later, but DNA analysis was inconclusive. The state's hunt for the cat was suspended in late November of 2003. After 3 weeks without sightings, the Utah University professor and wildlife biologist expressed doubts about the cat's existence. And I guess apparently people still say they see a black cat, and people compare it to the Loch Ness Monster is what it said. So the article didn't really take them serious, it sounded like.
Oh.
But what do you think of that one, Nick? Hawaii? As far as I know, I don't think that there is any big predators like that out there.
No, I don't think there's any native big cat populations, but
Yeah, it has to be brought there.
yeah, like I said earlier, it was an exotic pet that was purchased by somebody, and they couldn't take care of it any longer, or they decided they couldn't take care of it. So
They're kind, brother. Them big cats up in them hills, brother.
they let it loose and abandoned it, and it became feral, like a domestic house cat would. It became feral.
Yeah.
Off the land.
So you think that definitely, I think the environment, because they have deer in Hawaii, you figure that it could probably live there. I don't know how many deer there are, but you think that there are quite a bit of people though, and there's really remote parts, but then there's also really built up places in Hawaii. So I'm not familiar with where Kula County is or what island, but
Yeah, me neither.
let me look it up real quick. Kula County, Hawaii. It's in, let's see which island this is. Oh, so it appears that it is on
The Big Island?
no Maui, I think. Is the what this. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of towns in that area though, from what I'm seeing. Watch, I'll share my screen real quick. Share my screen. Yeah, I don't know if you guys could see this. This is the general area where it was sighted. Let me do the. There you go.
Oh, all right. Oh, yeah,
There's a couple of little farms and things, but I don't see a whole lot of like big towns or big cities.
Yeah, big cat definitely hide there.
This looks like the big. Everyone lives like in this part of the island, roughly.
Yeah,
but
that's
you look at it, the forest reserve is on the east part of the island. I'm surprised it wasn't over here somewhere.
Yeah, me too.
Unless it came down from the mountains down into this area. I'm guessing it's probably in this dark area around here.
Well, if you look at that map, you could see the forest reserve is over there. And then in that red circled area, that county, you do see farms dotted around on the landscape. So
I see a goat dairy right there.
There you go. There's livestock, so that would draw in a large cat to come down and get some food.
Or the pickleball Maui courts, right? Nick could be there too.
Jill played pickleball.
No, I know, but I was on a serious note. What do you call it? So that I thought that was kind of interesting. So here's another one. This is from Louisiana. I tried to get these kind of all over the place. So we got like Appalachia a little bit. We got New England. We had a guest in our chat. James Quayle, he was talking about the Northern California. This is from Louisiana. This guy said, I live in Natchitoches, I think is how you say that, Louisiana.
Natchez? Is it Natch?
Natchitoches.
Mm.
He says, yeah, the sightings are common in rural areas of this town and surrounding areas. I wish someone would try to get a picture so that it could be proven that these large cats are up in this area. This is from 2011. Another person said there's a town called Phoenix, Louisiana, 50 miles south of New Orleans. And in 2011, supposedly there are pictures of a mountain lion, of a black panther, but I looked and I couldn't find them. So we're going to move over to Georgia. There's a guy named Mr. Fletcher. He's 24 years old of Clarksville, Georgia, and he's a U.S. Forest Service worker who was walking along the Chattanooga River on January 10th near a popular camping and fishing area south of Burrell's Ford Bridge. Here's a quote from him. He says, I looked over my shoulder about 25 yards away, which is pretty close.
Yeah, that is very close.
Yeah, I saw this cat took off running, and I ran to the river, and he ran to the river and jumped in. Mr. Fletcher was not fleeing an oversized feral feline. He said it was a black panther, very large, and Mr. Fletcher is one of a growing number of people in the upstate who say that they've had close encounters with big black cats. And this was from the Independent Mail, Anderson, South Carolina. So I guess the sighting apparently got around because that was a Georgia sighting that was reported in South Carolina. So what do you think, Nick? Could it? It sounds like it could live in the, I don't know if you want to call that a swamp or.
Oh, yeah, the South.
Yeah. Louisiana's got a lot of woodland and swamp, so.
The whole South does in general.
Yeah, a black cat could definitely survive down there in that environment, that's for sure.
For sure.
Especially someone from Louisiana has reported that they know they're outdoors, you know.
For sure. So this one is from Texas. I got a couple. This is what I was going to talk about earlier. So this is from San Antonio, Texas, Leon Valley, in the Leon Valley, northwest of the city, near Grissom Road. It says it's near Grissom Road and Heath behind a charter high school. Here's the sighting. It says the back of the school, this takes place at a school, like I just said. The back of the school is fenced, but behind the fence is a wooded area and a creek bed. They say they saw the panther down in the creek resting by a log and looking straight at me with big emerald yellow imitating eyes. I wanted to see it move, so I rattled the fence where I was standing, and it looked around and took off like lightning. This particular cat was young, didn't appear to be fully grown, but other witnesses claim that they've had close encounters with the same cat. I mean close, like 10 feet away. The person that had the close encounter was a security guard pulling the evening shift. He said that that he was texting and walking around the school when he saw the panther. He said he didn't just freeze. He took off, and the panther took off in opposite directions. So I have 2 more sightings from the same school. If the creature is appearing around a school, that means it has no. I'm assuming it's in the middle of town. It says also another incident where the security guard got off the truck to patrol around the school. He had another not too close encounter, approximately 30 feet from the panther, and what he did was what no one should do. He froze for about a second and stomped his feet on the cement. The panther held its ground. So here you go. So the guard just walked backward a few steps and then got in the truck for safety. It says the investigator asked him if he had a camera phone. He said it was too dark to take a picture. Minutes later, he said the panther walked by the truck like it was not afraid. Here's a couple of quick remarks. Across the school is a fenced wooded area where they keep goats, about 25 of them, and a donkey. The sightings were at nighttime, and the panther was probably looking for prey, is what I wrote. So what do you think of that? It seems like everywhere these are well, not everywhere. A couple of these places, there are goat farms or goats nearby for some reason.
Yeah,
there's easy food.
It's an easy target for a large predator. So they're going to go after them.
And what do you think of that? It's right by a school, it said.
Yeah, it's interesting. And in fact, the guy's seen it twice.
They said it's by San Antonio in Texas.
You know, if it's by a school, you have small children, I presume. and those would also be.
I was just gonna
Mhm.
say, like, all
would be great, I think.
joking aside, it might be there because the kids are prey too, though.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I go after the kids. That's not unheard of. It's rare, but it's not unheard of for large predators to go after kids.
There's something I want to say. Let me find the link right here, real quick. There's something called the Glowakis, I think is how you say this. Here, let me share my screen, and that way you guys can see what I'm talking about. The Glowakis is one of the fearsome critters and a group of legendary creatures in the folklore and traditions of lumberjacks during the 18th and early 20th centuries, or 19th and early 20th centuries in North America. The Glowakis is described as looking something between a bear, a panther, and a lion. The Glowakis is also known as the northern devil cat. It is known for its fearsome screech and compares to the cackle of a hyena. The creature is blind. That's weird. Uses its sense of smell as well as sound waves. Looking into the creature's eyes is said to wipe the victim's memory. It was seen in 1939 in Glastonbury, Connecticut. So I have this one sighting on here I'll read real quick. This kind of sounds like a bizarre creature. They said, I was working as a young reporter for the Hartford Courant that year when World War II was in full swing. But we were preoccupied with the developing story of the Glastonbury creature that howled at night, slipped in and out of view, and caused dogs, cats, and small farm animals to disappear. As the sightings grew in number, so did a variety of descriptions. First, it was a huge cat. Then some people reported what looked like a dog in the back and the cat in the front. Then others saw vice versa. One man called in to say he saw a big animal in the pitch dark with eyes that glowed like embers. It was clear to us that this weird unknown animal needed a name. One editor coined the word Glowakis, GLA for Glastonbury, whack for wacky, and Venus as a Latin name of magic. So, what do you think of that, Nick? Could that be something that people were seeing when they report these big cat sightings, or does that sound anything like what you saw at all?
Like, I mean, yeah, the creature that I saw, it moved like a cat and was close to the ground, but it had somewhat of a dog-like. It crouched like a cat, but it was dog-like in appearance. I guess the best way to describe it. It wasn't. It didn't have as much of a elasticity to the body, I guess you could say, as a cat did. It was a little more rigid in its movements than a cat. So it does sound similar to what I had seen. I mean, I'm going off of my 20 plus year memory of this thing, but it moved cat and dog like. So
it almost sounds like the Glowakis. Even if it's not what you saw, that sounds like just a random, like a general term they gave to black cat and mountain lion sightings in Connecticut. That's what it sounds like.
Well, most likely, yeah, they would. The early colonists probably saw, or the loggers had seen black cats, and they mythologized these sightings, and over time they grew in folklore. Almost a Rhode Islander could that folklore. Folklore grew. Then these fantastic elements were added to what I mean. I don't want to call them mundane, but rather mundane cat sightings became very
glorified
and supernatural and glorified over time. Yeah.
So I have what do you call it? 2 or 3 more quick things to mention in the United States, and we'll kind of branch out and we'll talk of the beast of Bodmin Moor right after that. So this is just some basic statistics I wrote down. For more than 100 years, people in eastern states have reported seeing black cougars, frequently called panthers. In fact, language development indicates that tan or tawny cats are called by the name cougar or catamount, but black cats have been differentiated by the name of panther. Charles Humphrey states that there are over 500 sightings of North Carolina, and 1/2 of these are coal black panthers. Sightings of black cats in Kentucky were reported in field and stream blogs. Since the 1950s, Illinois reports multiple black cat sightings in and around Decatur and the Shawnee National Forest. Michigan alone reported over 70 sightings of black cats in the upper and lower peninsulas, with the majority coming from Oakland County. The Michigan Wildlife Conservancy reports that 27% of all sightings referred to black cats. So basically, they're seen all over, is what the article said. So after hearing those statistics, there might not be hundreds or thousands of them, but there's apparently out there.
Yeah.
That's a very, very large number.
This next thing is something I wanted to bring up while we're talking about phantom cats and alien felines. I literally wanted to bring up a phantom cat. So this one's for Nick. There's something called the demon cat. And apparently this is a creature that's seen in the White House, the United States Capitol, and parts of Washington.
I've heard that.
I actually heard about this on a TV show a long time ago on Travel Channel, a really bad 1990s show.
I remember that.
It says the story of the demon cat dates back to the mid-1800s when cats were brought into the basement tunnels of the United States Capitol building to hunt rats and mice. Legend states that the demon cat is one of the cats who never left even after its death. Its home is supposedly the basement crypt of the Capitol building, which was originally intended as a burial chamber for George Washington. According to legend, the cat is seen before presidential elections and when tragedies in Washington, D.C. strike, allegedly being spotted by multiple White House security guards on the night before the assassination of JFK and Abraham Lincoln. It's described as either a black cat or a tabby cat. Some say it's the size of an average house cat, while others have reported large cats the size of mountain lions. However, witnesses report that the cat swells to the size of a giant tiger or an elephant, some say. Some say it's been seen up to the size of 10 feet by 10 feet when alerted. The cat would either explode or pounce at the witness, disappearing before it managed to catch its victim. In the 1890s, the cat is said to have inexplicably vanished when some Capitol Hill security guards fired their guns at it, and another supposedly died of a heart attack after seeing it. Some of the most extravagant sightings of the ghosts appeared right after World War II. So what do you think of that, Nick? That's kind of weird, bizarre.
I mean, black cats have been an omen for bad luck for, as long as recorded history has gone. And I do remember hearing about this story myself. So I don't doubt that there is some kind of phenomena going on there. Is it a ghost cat? Maybe is it just stray cats that show up and at very convenient times, before the assassination of the president or whatnot. But given the history of Washington, D.C. and everything that's gone on there historically, it would draw a lot of energy for a spirit or a spiritual entity, such as the phantom cat to appear. So again, that might be a show in and of itself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you think of the people, though, when they say, some say it's the size of a house cat, other people say it's the size of like a mountain lion? One person said it was the size of an elephant, which would scare the shit out of you, you think?
Yeah.
Well, either way, they said the show I watched it with you and Tim actually a long time ago. They were saying that it was like in the 90s. There was 2 security guards at the Capitol building, and they said they saw movement somewhere, and I guess they went to where the movement was, and they said it looked like a big ass like leopard or a panther came charging at him, and it disappeared while it was charging at him. I'd shit my pants. 2 a.m. in the Capitol building. You see a panther the size of like a one you see in the rainforest charging at you. I'd shit my pants.
Yeah, seriously.
Sure,
yeah. What do you think, Nick? So what do you think? Why would the black cat appear to be the size of an elephant to some people?
Well, if it is a spiritual trans-dimensional entity, then it could possibly have the power to shape shift, I guess you could call this ability.
Yeah.
Itself in different sizes. Now, if people are just seeing shadow, to take a more skeptical approach, if people are seeing just black cats like strays, or they're seeing shadows and
Yeah.
trip, just kind of imagining things, then their imaginations could run wild, and that would cause them to have that type of experience. So, I mean, you could go either way with it, but I'm more inclined to believe that there is some kind of entity in DC because of, like I said, all the historical.
Amongst all the evil going on there.
Yeah. It's modern day Babylon. So yeah, I'm sure,
Sodom and Gomorrah.
I'm sure Pelosi or Mitch McConnell's down in the basement doing some kind of ritual to summon the demons to further screw the country over. So I would be surprised if they're summoning demonic black cats.
So let's see. Now that we literally talked about a phantom cat, let me see.
And the horrible Washington D.C. evil.
Yeah. So now we're going to kind of branch out a little bit. We're going to kind of go a little bit out of the United States. I figured we'll talk about this probably for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then we'll probably end the show unless one of you guys needs to end sooner. So the first one I'm going to talk about, this is in Luxembourg. This is a bizarre one. In 2009, a black panther was allegedly spotted in an industrial area of Balmoshore near Bacharach. Man, I can't say these names. When police came, the panther was gone. In the following couple of days, the panther was spotted all over the country. For a while, it was alleged that the panther had escaped a nearby zoo, but the zoo later denied that any panther was missing. A couple of days after the Bacharach incident, it was also mentioned that although the police did not find a panther, they did find an unusually large house cat. Do you think it's mistaken identity, Nick?
That could be the case. There, the human mind can run wild and turn very small things into very large things. So,
yeah,
it could be a case of mistaken identity. I mean, just to maybe give a personal anecdote that all three of us can relate to. When we had gone to an abandoned mine site, we went into one of the old chambers, and when we walked in, we just saw something spread its wings and flutter, and all three of us ran like cowards out of the building, almost over each other. And when we looked inside, it was just an owl.
So, we caught that on video.
So our minds were, we were on edge that night already. And then when we saw the owl spread its wings out, we just freaked out. So that could conceivably happen to somebody walking through a dark industrial area at night and they see a big cat. It could happen.
Oh, yeah. So this next one's going to be one of the most famous ones. There's something called the Beast of Bodmin Moor. So what this
I've heard of that one.
Yeah. So there's lots of evidence to support this one. I'll give you a basic description, then we'll kind of talk about it for a minute before we get into the sightings. The beast is the result of some 60 sightings or so of a black panther-like large cat, supposedly 3 to 5 feet long with yellow-white eyes, combined with numerous reports of mutilated livestock. The evidence was robust enough that in 1995, the government ordered an official investigation into the existence of the beast. The report finally concluded that there was no verifiable evidence of the big cat on Bodmin Moor, although it was careful to state that there was no evidence against it either. And I forgot to mention, Bodmin Moor is a place over in England. Between 1983 and 1996, the beast was reported 60 times, like I said, and from 2000 to 2011, there was almost 200 sightings. And it says that's a lot considering this isn't a very populated area to begin with. The first documented sighting of a big cat in Britain was by a celebrated writer named Willem Cobbett. He spotted the big cat as a child in 1820.
I've seen some of the pictures of these cats too. Have you?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to play some video evidence here in just a moment. What do you think of that, Nick?
Yeah, I think, I have seen this case throughout the years, different documentaries and different perspectives. I've watched an old one from the 90s last weekend to refresh my memory. And yeah, there's definitely a substantial amount of evidence for the big cat. Now, I think in the Bodmin Moor area, it's more likely to be an abandoned or a population of abandoned exotic animals that are feasting on livestock. But yeah, there are stories that go back further in history of like phantom cats, like spiritual entities, and I think they have black dog legends too, also in England, and that would be an interesting thing. And then another weird animal, and this will be a show of its own. Have either of you two ever heard of the beast of, this is French, Gévaudan?
I sure have.
Mm-mm.
The one in the 1700s.
Yeah, during the
Yep.
French Revolution,
Where
That-
they went and it was murdering tons of people and livestock, and
yeah,
That would be a good show.
that's an
it
interesting
is.
case. I've watched both fictionalized accounts and nonfiction material.
I believe that one's real because they have people. Even the king had like a declaration he wanted the creature killed.
Yeah. So, I mean, in Europe has a very rich history of these ghostly animals that kill livestock and even people.
So when
So-
you had your sighting over in Rhode Island, you don't think that was ghostly in nature, right? It was a real animal, you said?
I'm more inclined to actually think it was probably more of a phantom creature, because when I had pursued it and had gone to see where it went, I didn't see a trace of it. And like I said, the woods were not very thick. You could see down on the forest floor. You know, it wasn't very thick vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
I would have seen a bobcat or a cougar had it been that.
Yeah.
So I'm more inclined to think that it was a spiritual entity. However, it may have been a bobcat, and it just was hiding
Yeah.
me.
Candice Waring says Black Dog Barquest. Not exactly what she means by that.
And it's probably a location.
Type that in.
Or
it's something of English folklore, it says. It's a supernatural spectral demon hellhound creature from English folklore, it says. Seen throughout Europe and the Americas. Yeah, I've never heard of that before. Have you, Nick?
Hmm.
well, I know you were on a television show about 10 years ago that talked about the hellhounds of El Dorado, right? El Dorado,
Yeah, that would be a show. That'd be a good show in itself too, actually.
So
Sorry, my back's killing me in this chair. I have to keep like jumping around.
we do, I have some familiarity with these phantom animals and weird sightings, but yeah, as far as the beast of Bodmin Moor, there's plenty of physical evidence of livestock killings and fur, and I think they did find the carcass of a lynx in the area that was roadkill. So they do know that there was a population of large cats in the area. It wasn't a black cat, but
Well,
it was definitely a large cat that was killed.
while we're on the topic of this, I'm going to play two videos from YouTube. I believe one's a news story and one's not, on the Beast of Bodmin Moor. Like I said, I have to make this announcement every time, I guess, when we start playing these videos now. I'm going to play the video. If for some reason the video is not there when you choose to watch this podcast, that means we got copyright struck and we had to delete it. But for the time being, I'm going to play the video. I want to see what everyone thinks of this. Let me.
Hey, blog, the BBC is going to copyright strike you.
All right.
Here we
Surprised
go.
it's not Zuckerberg.
So the first one, this takes place it says teenager campers find huge panther feeding on dead sheep in the Peak District. This video is like 20 seconds long.
I can't tell what it is. Any noise.
That's clearly not a.
Yeah, that's not a
Okay.
hellcat.
Let me play it again. What do you think of
I can't
that?
tell what it is.
That's pretty neat.
huge. Wow.
Very nice.
What's he munching on? A sheep or something?
And it's scavenging a dead sheep, or it had killed a sheep and was eating it.
And here's the next one. This one's a more formal video. This is by a news station, I believe, or a news program. It's 1 minute and 13 seconds long.
So it was on the tele.
This was the image which shocked a military policeman as he managed to capture the scenes on video. A large black cat seen prowling over a railway line close to his naval base. PC Swallow, a dog handler based at Faz Lane on the Clyde, thought he was seeing a Labrador dog crossing the tracks, but on closer inspection, believed he was seeing one of the mysterious big cats which reportedly roam the UK. He'd run to his car to grab his mobile and caught the picture from the rail bridge, around 2 minutes of the animal moving up the line. Big
That
cat
view of the
been
cat
seen in
right
the area
there is
before,
similar
and
to what I had seen as a kid.
You said that looks similar?
That view right there is like the view I had of what I had seen as a kid.
Oh, that's
That-
Naval
that's-
Base's
that's
pest
interesting.
control
I
officer
could-
said he did not believe it's a domestic cat or dog. It's the latest of a long line of sightings, the most famous of those, the beast of Bodmin, with various sightings reported since the early 1990s. The Big Cats in Britain group, which investigates animals roaming the countryside, say they're excited by the video, saying this could be one of the best pieces of footage of a big cat in the UK.
How old is that footage?
The footage is from, it looks like 2005, 2007 area. What do you think of that?
I mean, that's clearly
A
a
cat.
large feline. Yeah, it's a large cat.
Good thing he grabbed his mobile and filmed it.
So, I mean, that was
So-
before the era of AI making all these deep fakes.
You were right.
That looks pretty good. The guy was breathing though, like he ran a mile. He's like, he's feeling. Did you hear it? But no, yeah, clearly. I was like, I don't know if that first video, there's not a whole lot of background on that video, but that was clearly something eating a carcass of a dead deer or dead something.
Yeah,
Probably.
definitely. I thought those are both real. I think.
Oh yeah, I think so. So going back to the beasts of Bodmin Moor. Let's see, I wrote, what was the beast of Bodmin Moor? There's a lady named Mary Chipperfield. It says this is the popular, what a lot of people think. She claimed she let loose 3 pumas into the wild when her zoo closed in 1978. This included a breeding pair. I don't know why this is a good idea. That sounds terrible. Letting wild pumas out into into England. Another zookeeper named Benjamin Mee admitted he released a pack of pumas from Dartmoor Zoo in the 1980s. He claims these animals could have survived for at least 2 generations until at least 2010, he says. Another theory simply states that the species of wildcat believed to have gone extinct, in fact, is still alive in the region. The most bizarre explanation is that the beast is somehow supernatural, possibly owing to the sounds it is reported as making. So what do you think of that, Nick?
I mean, I would think that they would be able to live longer because they have no natural predators.
Oh yeah, David wrote, do you think someone had them as pets and got rid of them and that's why it's rare? Could be.
Yeah, I think that's the explanation, I think, for most of these sightings of people just letting loose exotic pets. And
Especially in the UK. Here, they're more likely to be wild, like in certain parts of the South and things. But
I mean, it's funny, but it's not. Can you imagine, like, in the United States, even in the 80s, if you had a pack of pumas, like 10 pumas, you just open the doors to the zoo and say, go run off into the wild, and they could kill people. Holy crap. Can you imagine that, Nick? Like, holy shit. Especially if you live nearby. Can you imagine you don't only see one puma, you see a pack of pumas outside when you go look out your window?
I think, I mean, it's an ignorant and really bad behavior for these people to have done that. However, in the documentary that I had watched, there was a law that was passed in the 70s by the British government to restrict the ownership of these animals. And I just heard a weird noise in the background. I'm in the backyard. I heard almost something that sounded like a kid or a cat, but
Mm-hmm.
and I don't hear it now. But yeah, they passed a law that made these people pay very large permit fees, and get a license to own these animals. So a lot of people got scared and they panicked and they acted in panic.
That's what Nick's dad did with his cougars back in the 80s.
Yeah,
No, I'm kidding. So I got two maps I do want to show to you guys. This is from Wikipedia. This is the distribution of jaguars. Pink indicates a former range, and the dark colors are where they're seen nowadays. So this is jaguars. So you can see that they were formerly seen in like Southern California, possibly Nevada, New Mexico, and Arizona. And that's kind of weird when you look at it. Texas. Then this, what do you think of that, Nick?
It's pretty neat.
it is.
You go forward. Here's the distribution of cougars. The yellow is the former range. The darker colors, I guess, are where it's seen nowadays. So if you look at Rhode Island and all that it was a yellow area. You figure, of course, Canada, the West, they're basically seen all over the western side of the world.
Well, like even the game wardens in Rhode Island said it's not like impossible.
Yeah. Based off that map, it looks like they could possibly be around. Real quick. So here's what I wrote. This is the last thing I want to say about Bodmin Moor for now. We'll probably do our own show on Bodmin Moor later on, but for now. In 1997, puma prints were found in the Bodmin Moor area, which suggests that a large cat was in fact active in the region at one time. The prints were investigated by officials from a local zoo, and one of the most notable pieces of evidence was found in 2012 when a local man and his wife discovered a corpse that was believed to have been possibly the beast specimen. So they found a big cat that was dead. That might have been what Nick was talking about.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Nick? You think Bodmin Moor, you think it was probably one of those bobcats or pumas they said they released?
Yeah, I think it was one of the animals that they or someone else had released, and it was preying on the local livestock. That's what I believe is the most logical explanation.
So what do you think, Tim?
Sorry, I was unmuting. I think it probably is one of the released animals that they seen.
Mm-hmm. So we got about 10 minutes left in the show. I'm going to briefly cover a couple of Australia sightings, and then we'll kind of get into this. So this first one's from Australia, like I said. It says a holidaying couple were left stunned after claiming they crossed paths of a black panther while driving their motorhome around Australia. Victorian couple Don and Nicole Sheet made the startling discovery while traveling to Charters Towers in North Queensland at 2 p.m. on Sunday. They discovered they saw the animal crossing the Gregory Development Road near the rural town of Basalt. It was only a few meters away, they said. There was no mistaking it, Mrs. Street said. It wasn't a feral cat. It was a full-blown panther. Dark, jet-black coat was glistening in the sun. The couple were forced to slow down their vehicle and wait for the predator to finish crossing the road before disappearing into some thick grass. Neither managed to snap a photo, but they were left stunned and freaked out by the sighting. And that's another place I think that they could realistically live, Australia.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, easy. Australia is so large and vast that a mountain lion population, a large one, could be sustained there.
Daily Mail has some pictures on here. Let me see if I could possibly get these up. Let's see. All right, let me share my screen once, probably the last time I'm going to share my screen. Let's pull up a couple of these pictures from Daily Mail. These are from Australia. So if you look, this is from tourist shock encounter with large black panther after elusive beast ran in. Oh, okay, so this is the story I was just reading. A A resident in the Douglasshire claimed he spotted the panther in South Mossman area late last year. So it's blurry, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a black panther.
He
looks
looks
a little-
pretty nice, though.
Is that kind of what you saw, Nick? Did it look like that?
Like I said, I didn't get to see the face, so I don't know what the front of it looked like. But that earlier video of the black cat going along the track with the rear view of it was the best comparison I can give to what I had seen.
I got one more story from Australia. Then I think we're gonna have to do a part 2 of this show later on, like another time. Michael Core, he was 36 years old. He claimed to have spotted the elusive predator roaming Victoria's Mornington Peninsula in 2021. Mr. Core was walking through the Tootgarook wetlands in southeast of Melbourne with his 11-year-old son when he spotted the creature. He managed to pull out his phone just in time to take a photo before the animal wandered into the snake-infested reeds. These are the pictures we were just looking at. Speaking to Daily Mail Australia, the father of 2 said the animal looked like it was on its way to find a meal. He says, "I just thought that's the biggest cat I've ever seen, and it was just crossing the tracks as if it was stalking something. My son ran into the other direction. We've been down there before and heard things rustling in the reeds, but never knew what exactly it was." So, what do you think of that? We saw
knowing it's probably stalking them.
him
Yeah,
and his son. Nick wants to be stalked by a giant panther that doesn't belong there.
Yeah, what's wrong? There's nothing wrong with being stalked by cougars. Experience.
So, what do you call it? Real quick. So we have a couple minutes left in the show, probably about 5 or 6 minutes. Is there any closing remarks you want to make, Nick, before we start saying our closing remarks and a little bit about what's going to happen the next couple of weeks?
I wanted to do this show because of the experience I had as a kid. And I remember I was watching TV one day after having this sighting, and I saw that other people had sightings like me. Mm-hmm. And phenomena has always intrigued me. So I definitely think there's something going on. And just like Sasquatch, I think it's a mixture of supernatural and natural occurrences. So it's definitely something we'll have to take a deeper dive into for another show.
For sure. I think we need to go, we'll look up more international stories and more West Coast type stories. What do you think, Tim? Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts before we talk about what's going to happen with us the next couple of weeks?
Just that the fact these things do exist. There's photo evidence, and like you said, those people found carcasses of them. So they do exist. They're real creatures.
So while we're finishing up this topic, I do want to mention Bigfoots Live is a viewer-driven show. So I need you to click like on our video, subscribe to us, do some sharing, do what you can to help us out, get our word across. Like we always say, Bigfoots Live will never ask you for money. We won't be begging for super chats like some channels do. And again, anything you can do to help us out, we are still building our audience because we've only been around for a few months here. Other than that, do you have anything to add on to that, Nick?
No, just everybody hit the like and subscribe button, share with everybody you know, and the more the merrier.
So before we end the show, I was going to have Tim and Nick stick around. We're going to have like a little chat afterwards after I roll the credits. But this Sunday at, I believe it's 7 o'clock, we're doing the show this Sunday. It is, let me double check here. Yeah, so 7 o'clock on Sunday, we are going to be talking to Floyd Wills. And he wrote an interesting book on the giants of Lovelock, the red-haired giants of Lovelock Cave. So I'm going to do a quick synopsis of what we're talking about. It says, Nevada's Paiute spoke of a race of giant red-haired cannibals who attacked and ate members of the surrounding tribes. Eventually, the Paiutes destroyed them in Lovelock Cave. In 1911, guano miners discovered the remains of giant red-headed mummies and thousands of artifacts. The artifacts were excavated and dispersed to several museums, but the mummies disappeared from public view. What happened to the giant mummies and where were they taken? Floyd Will's investigation into Lovelock Cave's mysteries reveals compelling evidence of the red-haired giant's Paiute tales. And Mr. Will supports his belief with newspaper articles, Native American accounts, and eyewitness testimony, photographs, skeletal remains, and artifacts found around the cave.
Mhm.
And I guess you could still visit this cave nowadays. I always thought that'd be kind of cool to check out.
Yeah, I've always found this tale fascinating.
And Music Monkey 101, once again. Yeah, thanks for checking us out again. He says, great show. So, I was going to say, I always appreciate when he comes on. He said he's been a fan of us for about 10 years or more.
Oh, wow, yeah, definitely.
But
Didn't you say his Uber people listen to us too?
yeah, are you doing your Uber thing? Are you listening to us while you're doing Uber again? Thought that was pretty badass.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so we're going to be interviewing Floyd on Sunday, so that'll be an interesting show. We don't know what we're doing after that. I'm hoping we're trying to figure out some kind of an event for our documentary that we're going to release. We're either thinking some kind of a watch party on here. We don't know if we're doing like a show to lead up into it, or we don't know how we're doing it. But we should have that done within, I'd say, what, Tim? Probably 2 weeks we'll probably have it done.
Easily, yeah, somewhere in that time.
The thing that's taken so long with this documentary is we have literally a month of footage. We were out there several times a week for a month. We have we actually did catch some pretty good evidence. We caught what we think was the sand yeti on thermal for not just a few seconds, but we caught a pretty good image of it for probably 1 or 2 minutes probably. We got footprints. We got all kinds of stuff. So as far as I know, we're the only ones that have ever caught some good evidence of it besides that what is it photo that you showed before. Right, Nick?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, no, yeah, we definitely caught some very good evidence on that trip, on all those trips.
Oh, yeah.
It's ironic. We caught the sand yeti on film during a blizzard.
I'm thinking we're going to do a part 2 possibly. If we get good feedback from part 1, we'll do a part 2, and I promise it won't take 100 years to come out.
Yeah.
But once again, I want to thank everyone that tuned into tonight's show. I will need my co-host to stay on the line for just a second. I'm going to end the show. Like I said, we're going to do a show 2 days from now on Sunday at 7 o'clock. We're interviewing Floyd Wills. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and I will see you guys next time.
Everybody have a good night.
Good night.